An early end to both the men's and women's basketball seasons and a final game for one head coach.
Aaron McKie steps away from the men's team, but he's not leaving North Broad for good. And I'm Sam Cavone, live outside of Edward Olson Hall. I'll have the story of how Stan Drayton is using the spring season to get ready for the real deal this fall. OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now.
Aaron McKie, so much respect amongst these two schools. Cincinnati, the 4 seed, will move on here in the semifinals with an 84-54 win over Temple.
Not only the end of a season, but the end of an era. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to OwlSports Update. She's Meg Doyle. I'm Matt Rineer.
The last time we saw you, Temple had 2 teams making a run towards the postseason. But those runs are over, and one head coach is gone. And here is one of the many reasons. 5th-ranked Temple taking on number 4 Cincinnati in the AAC quarterfinals in Fort Worth, Texas on Friday at Dickies Arena. The Owls start off strong with Damian Dunn carrying the load early, putting the first 5 points for Temple up on the board. 2 minutes in, and the Bearcats have yet to find the net. Odi Oguama puts Cincy on the board with one of his game-high 12 rebounds, but the Owls are playing from behind. Temple trails by 15 points at the start of the second half. Jameel Reynolds tries to chip away at the gap with the jumper, but that isn't enough as the Bearcats continue to dominate, with Dan Skillings fighting his way into the paint for one of his 8 field goals of the game. With just under 10 minutes left in the game, Hyzier Miller puts in his first and only jumper of the day. Temple cannot catch up as Cincy adds 30 points to the board in the final 8 minutes, the last 6 coming from Kalu Izake, ultimately defeating Temple and closing out its season 84-54.
Everybody tried to win it on their own. A little too much one-on-one, and we didn't get the ball moving the way that I wanted it to move. I thought for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a really good job of moving the ball, moving bodies, and screening and all of those things. And we made some shots early. We got comfortable, and we got away from it. So we fought. We just dug a hole that was too deep for ourselves.
That was the last time we heard from Aaron McKie as the head coach of Temple basketball. Days later, on Monday to be exact, Athletic Director Arthur Johnson announced it was time to part ways with Aaron McKie as head coach. But McKie will not be gone for good. He will transition into a new role as a special advisor for the men's team. McKie finishes his Temple coaching career with an overall record of 52-56.
The loss against Cincinnati officially ends the men's basketball season, as well as the end of the Aaron McKie era on North Broad. Courts in Session host Luke Mila is live at the studio set to take a deeper look at why Temple chose to part ways with McKie. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Matt. Yes, you guys mentioned Aaron McKie is out of the job. Now, Meg talked about his overall record, but I want to narrow that down to the most important games. In 4 years, Aaron McKie's teams went 0-3 in the AAC tournament, the games that mean the most. The men's team hasn't won a postseason game since 2018, and the last NCAA tournament appearance was back in 2019 under Fran Dunphy. Now I want to take a look at a potential replacement and his postseason resume. Matt Langle at Colgate has been mentioned on social media as a candidate worth eyeing, and for good reason. Langle's won Patriot League Coach of the Year 4 times, he's been to the Patriot League Championship game 6 times, and his team has played in the NCAA tournament 4 times, including this season. Above all else, Langle's teams win in the postseason. That's something the Temple men have struggled to do as of late. And now with a big change like this, it leaves a lot of question marks moving forward. Who's the next coach going to be? What's the roster going to look like? I think it's time to open it up to a bit of a discussion here between you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, Luke. Now, the lack of postseason success has been evident for the Owls across Aaron McKie's tenure with the team. Who do you think is someone that Temple will try to eye, trying to fill that spot in the vacancy?
I think it's hard to tell so early. That's why you're seeing just social media names like a Matt Langle, like a Dawn Staley, people with Temple connections. Obviously, Dawn Staley, obviously overqualified for this job, but you're going to see names like that thrown out at this stage in the process. The decision really only came earlier this week. So I think as we get further down the line, that's when you'll see more real names start to come out of the woodwork.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go in. Now, my question for you, as they embark on this journey to find the new head coach, what do you think are some of the main qualities they're going to be looking for?
There are two big things for me. The first one is winning in the postseason. That's why you see someone like Langle's name come up. That's why I think you saw Aaron McKie's out of the job. As I mentioned, 0-3 in the postseason. They need someone that can prove they can win beyond the regular season. That's what this Temple program wants. And then the second thing, arguably bigger than that, is recruiting. This is a good area filled with talent. Philadelphia, there's a lot of good players here, but there's also a lot of competition when it comes to recruiting this talent. Just look at the most recent one, Dan Skillings, the Roman Catholic grad, right down the street. He ends up going to a different AAC school in Cincinnati, and what does he do? He has a career high against Temple in the regular season, and then he is a big part in knocking Temple out of the postseason. That's just one of a few different examples, but winning in the postseason, having that resume, and recruiting are the two big things for me going forward.
Now, it's hard to imagine, but it seems as though this program almost needs to start over. A new head coach, it's going to be a brand new roster due in large part to the portal. What's the biggest challenge that lies ahead, not only for the new candidate, but for the program itself?
Well, you mentioned it. The portal is probably one of the biggest challenges right now because we don't know what this team's going to look like even tomorrow, let alone next season. Hyzier Miller, Caleb Battle, Jamil Reynolds, Nick Jourdain, all already in the portal. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more guys followed them there. So I think there's a lot of questions there. Then you bring in the new coach. They want to get their players for their system. So that leaves another question mark. Who are they going after in the portal? How many scholarship spots do they have to fill with their own players? We gave Aaron McKie that 1-2 year grace period because it wasn't his guys. Then in the last 2 years, we got a little bit more hard on him because they were his guys with his system. I think you're going to have to give the new coach the same grace period. So that's going to be the biggest challenge moving forward, that struggle in the first year or two.
Definitely. Now, Luke, for my last question, I have to ask you, what do you think McKie's new role as special advisor is going to entail? Because they really didn't give much detail.
You're spot on. In the statements that Aaron and athletic director Arthur Johnson gave, they didn't really talk too much about that new role or what it will mean. I think it could be for a couple reasons. First, he's got a year left on his deal. It allows him to get paid out while still being with Temple. And also, Aaron McKie is just a wonderful representation of Temple men's basketball. He's a big face of this program. It's not a good thing to burn a bridge like that. He's a guy you want to keep with Temple, make an ambassador for the university. So I think it's a good thing that they're keeping him involved, even though it's not in the same role.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, as Luke mentioned, and Luke isn't alone in this, as Colgate head coach Matt Langle gets ready for the NCAA tournament, he had some time to talk with Zach Gelb of CBS Sports Radio on Monday. Gelb, who happens to be a former OwlSports Update anchor, asked about the rumors and the idea of being wanted for other jobs on larger stages.
Well, with your success, your name does pop up in other jobs. Just how do you navigate that with your guys currently? Does that come up in conversation or not a distraction right now?
Yeah, for us, it's not a distraction. I think we have great relationships with our players. They're all really focused on their opportunities at hand. I think for me and hopefully for them, it's flattering when that happens in the media that your name pops up because it's all the work that they've done and how they've positioned this program. But they know that my commitment is to them and this opportunity always that I pour everything we have into helping them get as prepared as they could be for Thursday night.
This offseason losing several key pieces, with 3 players entering the transfer portal so far. Caleb Battle, Hyzier Miller, and Jamil Reynolds recently confirmed that they will be looking elsewhere to continue their collegiate basketball career. And even Nick Jourdain has thrown his hat in the ring as well. The rebuilding is officially underway.
Temple took on number 8 Wichita State in the first game of the AAC tournament last week. It was a tough battle as Wichita State held the lead in all 4 quarters, although Temple tied up the game at the start of the 4th. In the end, the Owls fall to the Shockers 71-61. Tierra East set a career-high 3 blocks in the first quarter alone, while Aaliyah Nelson kept the Owls in the game with 22 points.
The loss officially wraps up the first season for the Owls under head coach Diane Richardson. Temple finished 6-10 in the conference and 11-18 overall. Despite the losing record, there were still some bright spots. For the Owls, the biggest being Aaliyah Nelson. Her first season on North Broad was a success, leading the team in scoring with 15 points per game. Now it's the off-season, and the Owls have many scholarship openings, and Richardson is ready to move on.
It was definitely a learning process. We had a lot of ups and downs, and quite frankly, I'm glad it's over. I'm planning on next season already. So, it was a transition.
We're coming up on our first break of the show. Next, we'll be talking about 2 players who broke the 1,000-point plateau in basketball.
We'll also get a look at the football team's spring practice and how Stan Drayton feels as the 2023 season approaches. We'll be back in just 90 seconds.
Men's and women's basketball seasons may be over, but that doesn't mean we can't acknowledge some personal milestones from both squads. For Damian Dunn and Aaliyah Nelson, it was a special season. As both players crossed the 1,000-point threshold, OwlSports update Hayden Bendel has more.
In college basketball, having players break the 1,000-point plateau from both the women's and men's program is a notable feat. This season, it happened for the first time since COVID shut everything down in 2020. And this season, men's basketball found its 55th 1,000-point scorer, while the women their 26th, almost at the same time, with guards Damian Dunn and Aaliyah Nelson.
I just get so nervous just talking about scoring just because just how my career started, starting at Cincinnati, I didn't play a lot, didn't really score a lot.
The current Owls were able to achieve the mark by tallying over 800 points in their last 2 seasons. Nelson's achievement meant a lot to head coach Diane Richardson, who has known Nelson since she was in grade school.
I'm really proud of her, and I've watched her grow up, and so for me that was great for me to see and to be here and witness, and I'm proud of her.
Dunn and Nelson are the first duo since Quinton Rose and Mia Davis to actively have 1,000 career points and be on each program. Now that leaves the unknowns. How many more points will they score? And will they both do it on North Broad? Reporting from the Leah Core Center, I'm Hayden Bandel, OwlSports Update.
With several Owls potentially entering the transfer portal, it's unclear whether Dunn and Nelson will continue their scoring excellence at the Leah Core Center.
So basketball ends and football begins. Spring practices are in full swing for Temple. OwlSports Update Sam Cavone is live at Edberg Olsen with a preview of what the Owls are working on for the upcoming season. Hey, Sam.
Thanks, Meg. The Owls started their spring practices the week before spring break. There will be 15 practices held before the annual Cherry and White game on April 8th. The 85-man roster includes 20 new players, with everyone hoping to move in the right direction this offseason and prepare for what is to come in the fall.
Stan Drayton and company are looking forward to September, but that work starts now, with 6 weeks of spring practices leading up to the April Cherry and White game.
On the football field, we are really focused in on gathering information, processing it, and getting to a point where we can execute it at a high level.
Although 2022 saw the Owls finish at 3-9 for a second straight season, it showed potential. It was Drayton's first season with Temple, and he started true freshman E.J. Warner behind center.
This season will include new coaches, new players, and a new and improved Temple football team. Drayton's seal of approval on newcomers to the staff and roster are enough for veterans like Jordan McGee, to welcome them to the Temple family.
We trust Coach Drayton, obviously, so anybody that he brings in, we're gonna bring them in like family.
This includes over 20 players from both the transfer portal and the incoming freshman class. And there are 2 new coaches, cornerback coach Dominique Bowman and running back coach Jamil Motunga. Coach Antoine Smith believes that multiple members of the defense have stood out so far.
Guys have shown that they're hungrier. That's kind of what I've noticed so far 2 practices.
The team's practices are closed to the public. That leaves April 8th's Cherry M. White game as being the first time fans will get a chance to see what's to come from Drayton's second year at Edward Golson.
One more football note for those who have graduated. Temple's annual NFL Pro Day is coming up next Thursday at the Star Complex. Reporting live from Edward Golson, I'm Sam Cavone. Meg and Matt, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Sam. We may have been off for spring break, but the viewers still made their voices heard over the past 2 weeks. It's once again time for us to analyze some of the top athletes on campus as chosen by you at home. It's once again time for Twitter Talk with M&M.
That's right. And this week, I'm going with Mahan Delmas. This senior from France is having an incredible last season with the Owls. The team has won the 12 straight matches this season, and Delmas is playing a large role in that. He has 54 career wins at Temple, landing him in 6th on the records list. On top of that, he's also in 6th in career double wins at Temple with a record of 30-9. Delmas has been an athlete who consistently performs well, as last season he led the Owls in singles play. This athlete has been putting in work on and off the court, as he's been an ITA Scholar athlete for the past 3 years at Temple.
He's certainly been dominant for the team so far. I'm focusing on Hasir Miller, and this looks to be the last time we analyze him here in a Temple uniform, thanks to the portal. But you know what? You guys voted for him, and we're going to honor it. Miller had a solid outing for the Owls in their AAC tournament matchup against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Here he is, taking the ball from half court to take a deep 3 in the process. He's got a steady hand both as a shooter and as a ball handler. Here he is once again, still in the lead for the moment, able to draw the double team, dishing it to Zach Hicks in the corner. He's able to get it off just in time, barely beating the shot clock, and Miller was a huge part for that. Now, Temple was down big later in the game, but Hasir Miller, he's a guy, he's not afraid of contact. Here he is taking the ball coast to coast, and he's going to be driving through the contact to get the layup to fall. He's a key piece for the Owls this season, and his role is one of many that will need to be filled between now and next November.
Yeah, he definitely will be a tough loss for Temple, but that's going to do it for this edition of Twitter Talk. Follow us on Twitter at OwlSports Update, where we'll be putting out our next poll on Thursday, March 23rd. That's when you will get to choose your top player out of our 4 options, and the top 2 will be the subject of our next Twitter Talk.
It's time for our second break of the show.
When we come back, we'll be taking a look at the final meet for gymnastics team, and we'll also talk about the ways Temple students stay active without finding a way onto varsity sports.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. The gymnastics season has come to a close with an impressive last meet. OwlSports Update's Logan Matthews is at the studio set with the weekend recap. Hey, Logan.
Thanks, Meg. The Temple gymnastics team closed out its regular season over the weekend with a 5-team meet hosted by the University of Maryland in College Park. The Owls scored the 4th best mark overall in school history with a 196.25. This mark was enough to defeat George Washington and Yale, but not enough to beat Towson and Maryland, who beat the Owls by less than 1 point. Freshman Ashley Glynn finished in 2nd place overall with a career-high 39 total points, and all 6 gymnasts who competed on bars scored a 9.8 or higher. Temple is moving on to the postseason with a 14-17 record and a 3-4 conference record. The Owls postseason begins on Saturday with the EAGL Championships hosted in New Hampshire beginning at 1 o'clock. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Logan Matthews. Meg and Matt, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Logan. As some sports seasons are coming to an end, intramural sports are in full swing. These activities impact thousands on campus. OwlSports Update Eric Mawini has the latest.
Thanks, Meg. There are about 600 plus student athletes here at Temple across 19 varsity sports. But you don't need to be in that top 1% to play a sport here at Temple, as there's plenty of room for the weekend warrior.
10 sports and 4,300 students, but they do it for fun.
Not for any kind of scholarship, not for a payday, and not for a stadium full of fans. This is Temple's intramural program. And it's come a long way since it was built decades ago, well before director Ray DeStephanis took control in 2002.
A year and a half into my career, an opening happened, and he knew I loved sports, and he approached me, and it was a perfect marriage.
Programs like basketball, dodgeball, and one of the more popular sports, floor hockey, are some of the options. Floor hockey, like many programs, has men's, women's, and co-ed leagues. Registration for floor hockey starts in late January, and the season runs through April. For many players, this is a fun, healthy way to escape academic rigors.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good workout. Like, I'm drenched now, we're running around all over the place, and it's nice to be able to have that competition again, which we don't get, so it's definitely an escape for sure.
And intramural sports are not just for the players. Each game or match must have referees as well. It's a paid job. Some get paid by the game, some by the hour.
You know, I'm always telling people who need jobs around campus that Campus Rec's a really good spot. You know, it's not the biggest pay, but, it works. Just spending money here, and it's fun. It's low stress environment.
Now that spring break is over, that means new spring sports are starting up, which includes dodgeball, softball, and indoor soccer. Reporting from Pearson McGonigal Hall, I'm Eric Maloney, OwlSports Update.
And that brings us to our final break of the show, but don't go anywhere.
We will transition from intramurals to club sports. OwlSports Update will be back in just 90 seconds. Welcome back. Club sports teams are not as competitive as D1 sports, but unlike intramural teams, they travel to compete against different schools. I got to watch Taekwondo Club in action to get a look at the mental and physical strength needed to succeed. It's not every day you get to compete in a sport that allows you to kick, punch, and really just spar with other students at Temple. This is Taekwondo, one of 31 club sports teams on campus. The club has been around for more than 20 years, founded in 1997.
Coming in, I had this impression that Taekwondo would be like really serious, really gritty, people that just like, oh, I want to hurt people, I want to beat people up or something, but like everyone here is so chill and just so nice.
Club president Prem Ganesh has been practicing Taekwondo since he was 4. 17 years later, he's the lead instructor.
It's easy to watch and it's hard to copy, so when I'm teaching, I'm trying to show them what works for me in different ways that work for other people.
Everything from uniforms to protective equipment is provided. There's even the chance to earn belt degrees. There's about 40 students on the team. They practice 2 times a week for about 2 hours. The practice of Taekwondo doesn't just challenge the body, but the mind as well. The core values revolve around determination and teamwork.
My just general confidence in myself has improved a lot too, with like as my physical health has improved and so has my mental health as well.
The team is a part of the Eastern Collegiate Taekwondo Conference and placed in the top 32 out of almost 700 competitors in the last tournament. They are preparing for the next competition in Vermont on April 22nd. That's all the time we have for this week. Tune in next Thursday as OwlSports Update returns for our weekly show.
For our entire crew, she's Meg Doyle. I'm Matt Rineer. Thank you so much for wherever you may be watching, and have a great weekend.